And when you change, everything changes. So when you make a decision you want to change, when you decide to start your search, the universe takes you places. Suddenly you put yourself in the zero frequency. So things start coming to you, and you realize life is not as hard as it looks like, because you are making it hard. Yes, because we think we know, because we keep listening to our intellect, because we are not open, because we don't believe, we don't trust, we don't let go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that's a big, big issue. And of course, in reference to what I started out the program talking about, this being 2020, the year of perfect vision, and encouraging people to go within, that's where we get the truth, the honest answers to our questions, the guidance, the inspiration, the encouragement, and so forth that is genuine. We don't always, as much as we try to be genuine with one another when that comes along and we're trying to encourage someone and support them, you know, I kind of put it this way. Steve Jobs, the founder of
Apple.
Apple, he was the one who had the original vision. It was his. And he was very successful in transmitting to others that vision. But it was still his. And it will never be anybody else's. And so when it comes to our vision, nobody else is really going to understand our vision.
Sure.
And as much as I want to encourage you to go back and do tax preparation again, and I'm kidding, my vision is not your vision, and your vision is not mine. But we support one another in our respective visions for what we want in our lives, for the direction that we want to go. I have people on here because I like doing these programs. I like asking the questions and getting the answers and going in depth if we can, and exposing, so to speak, or getting you the exposure with your ideas like zero frequency, so that will help other people. Yeah. And that hopefully we can change the world together through our respective different visions, right?
Yeah, I think right now it's so important to open our minds and be flexible, because the world as we knew it is gone.
It is.
And it's not going to come back. So we have to adapt, and we have to change, yes, and decide what kind of world we want. Because right now it's like the universe is saying, okay, the blue pill or the red pill, basically.
I know that a lot of people are in that place. And you're talking here, of course, about wiping the subconscious as well as the conscious state clean, so that we can perceive the wisdom, the guidance the universe has for us, and joyously live by it. We talk an awful lot here. I by the way, I thought I had created a new word, and it turns out it's in the dictionary. But I've often talked here about how I'm tired of surviving. I do not want to be in the survival mode. I want to help myself and others to move from survival to thrival. Turns out thrival is a word. It's in the dictionary.
Wonderful.
But that's what we want, and that's what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
So,
it is that 100% responsibility. I found, I did a lot of things like we all do on the search, but I always said there has to be an easier and faster way, and I found it. It's Ho'oponopono, a very ancient Hawaiian art of problem solving, and that taught me that I am 100% responsible, because everything is playing in my subconscious mind. It's like I'm a projector, yes? So in my life is the monitor, is the screen on the movie theater. So the movie is not out there. So if I want to change something, I need to change. You mentioned Greg Braden. I want to mention Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza. Everybody talks about all the problems are in the subconscious mind. And we keep replaying memories. If we don't take responsibility that there is something inside of us, that doesn't make us guilty or sinners or anything. It makes us only responsible. And the decision that I took or made when I realized I was 100% responsible is, wait a minute, if I created it, I can change it. And I actually felt powerful right there, because when you are waiting for somebody to change, when something to happen, when you are waiting to have something, you are always codependent, of those things, and nobody could be happy from being codependent of anything or anybody. So I realized we all have everything we need inside of ourselves to change our lives.
Well, now it raises the next point, because quite honestly, and just for your edification, my background in broadcasting, I was 15 years at a Christian radio station. And I will tell you that the dirtiest word that you can utter is personal 100% responsibility, because it takes both the devil and God out of the equation.
Oh, wow.
In that, and this is just my perspective, my observation
yes.
that if I'm responsible, then I can't blame it on the devil, nor can I give credit to God in the context of what we are talking about here.
Yes.
When we start to bring out the Mr. Clean cleaner or the bleach and start scrubbing away at our subconscious and conscious minds to get rid of those, not so much get rid of the memories, but it sounds to me like we have to reframe those memories or the beliefs in those memories. I heard it said that our beliefs, basically, when it comes to this conversation we're having here and what we're talking about with zero frequency, are lies. If we believe something like I'm not good enough and so forth, that's a lie. And going back to my background in broadcasting, I began to realize that I had value, and this is if one chooses to accept this premise and this philosophy. I had value before the sacrifice. I was already because if I had no value, then why would anybody sacrifice anything for me? So if someone is going to sacrifice something, another human being, for my existence, then I must already have value. And then if there is a sacrifice, then I must be priceless. And that's kind of the way I look at it, that we have been priceless for as long as we've been here on the planet, you and I individually, as we converse here. So those lies that we believe about ourselves, how do we go through that process of cleansing, if to use that term? Let's start with the subconscious, because to me that sounds like the hardest part, because the subconscious isn't something that, well, of course, we're conscious of all the time.
No, we are not. We are so the only one that actually can work on the subconscious mind is God. I found God inside of me when I started practicing trusting myself and not listening to those voices, or I'm not good enough, or paying attention what other people thought of me, or things like that. So when I said before, we can change our life without depending on anybody or anything outside ourselves, I was referring, this is definitely a work that you have to do directly with God. Mm-hmm. Yeah, life is between you and God. It's not between us. Yes, so agreements, things, decisions that we make. So, well, the story that I had a teacher, a Hawaiian teacher for more than 10 years, Dr. Ihalia Kalahule, and he told me the story of creation. And he says, when God put an Adam and Eve on the earth, he told them, you don't need to worry about anything, because I can provide you, whatever you want, whatever you need. But when he gave them the apple, it says, hey, you have free choice. So you can, think, because that's what the apple represented, thinking mm-hmm. we know, yes, or we know better, or, you can follow me. And mm-hmm. that's what we've been doing. Yeah, we've been following our own intellect, and that doesn't know anything. So, for example, what something else that you mentioned. For example, Bruce Lipton says that we walk with two antennas. Yeah. So what happens is if we don't clean, because actually we use that word in Ho'oponopono. So if we don't clean those memories, if we don't make room for inspiration, we call it inspiration, that those ideas that you don't know where they came from, those solutions that you never thought possible, those answers that you are looking for. So yes, another thing you mentioned, because you mentioned a lot of things, but I can think positive all day long, but the tapes that are behind that I'm not conscious of, that are telling me that I was born poor and I'm going to die poor, that life is not fair, or whatever, or look at how we are acting right now, buying into the fear and creating all this thing that maybe wasn't as bad in the first place, but we bought into the fear and we still, what is really painful to see people so asleep.
Yeah. And it is painful to see others asleep, especially when you're going through your day to day and you're trying to be as awake as and aware as possible of what's going on around you. And people around you they're flying everywhere. And they seem to be oblivious to your very existence.
Well, no, I think we got even worse now, Richard, because people are even afraid of you, with these mask things, and don't get near me. And if you're not wearing a mask, I cannot tell you, you are definitely the enemy, and things like that. I mean, it is incredible what people bought into. I mean, and I'm gonna be frank, because I come from Argentina, okay? Let's put it this way, okay? What is a great country, and anyway. So I could understand that those things could happen in Argentina, or that people would get into the fear or whatever. But I didn't expect it here in America, to be honest with you. I'm totally shocked of how people reacted and bought into the whatever.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting how this is usually what happens is when there is a disaster of some sort, or there are people who are in need, we're usually one of the first countries that jumps into action saying, okay, well, let's start a GoFundMe page and try to get some money for them. Or let's start sending stuff through the mail to help them out overseas or what have you. Or let's start loading up a ship with all kinds of goods and supplies and what have you to help them out to recover and so forth. But now I say this, with all due respect to those who are firm adherents to democracy, that if we are not careful here in America, democracy is going to kill us. It's going to wipe us out. I understand, and you and I both are understanding, I'm sure, of the whole individual rights and freedoms movement and philosophy that is part of democracy and part of our Constitution and the independence that we so desperately want. But I point this out, that in the Constitution and in the Declaration, it talks about promoting the general welfare and securing the blessings of liberty to ourselves and who? Our posterity, our children and our children's children. And I ask the question, and I kind of put this to you a little bit, maybe we can talk a little bit about how this applies to zero frequency. How do you balance those who are strong adherents to this independent philosophy? And again, there's no judgment here, but how do you balance that with making sure that our predecessors, our future generations are going to even be here? How are you going to balance that between that and your right not to wear a mask and not to social distance? And by the way, we should change that word from social distancing to physical distancing. I think that we are social beings. I heard this said the other day, and we need we need to be socially connected, but we can still do that and be physically distant from one another by that 6 foot distance. What are your thoughts in terms of balancing those two, what seem to be diametrically opposed concepts?
Well, I think, Richard, that right now, like even you mentioned before, your vision is completely different to mine or to somebody else, and we all are having our own experience. I think that there are not two people right now that are having the same experience with the pandemic. Everybody's creating their own reality, their own thing, believing whatever. So I think you touch into something very, very important. We have to do the work for the future generations. We owe it to, at least if we don't do it for ourselves, we have to do it for the future generations. And you know what I always talk about? It's like living in zero frequencies, being happy, being at peace, no matter what is going on around you. And I love to work with the youth. I love to work with children. I do a lot of that work as I travel. I visit schools and things, and I work with them, and that's my biggest joy, because I woke up kind of old, I would say, and I always wish I would have known all this when I was young. My life would have been so different. So I think we owe it. I always tell people, parents, that all we have to be is happy parents. That idea of raising professional people and they have to have a career and go to the university so we look good, So it doesn't matter if they are happy or not, or if they like the career that they chose when they were 17, 18 years old. They didn't know anything. How could you choose a career at that age? You understand what I mean? So there are a lot of things that made our society a very unhappy society and a very unhappy world. So I've been, traveling and sharing with people this for a long, long time. All we have to do is being happy parents, because they observe us. They don't listen to us. And with everything that is happening now, we have an amazing opportunity to really take this very seriously and say, what are we going to do? What are we going to show them? We are going to show them that we buy into the fear, or we are going to create our own reality, because this is really what we have in front of us. I mean, like, paradise or hell. Right?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking over some of the chapter titles, and chapters 1 and 6 are combined together, from my perspective, to describe an experience that my present wife and I had back in 2005-06. And it started for me when the radio station I was with at the time, which was a more progressive format of news, talk, and information, and a Christian consortium came along, bought the Christian station I had worked for the previous, that 15-year period back in the 80s, early 90s. And then they bought the Air America station that I was working for at that time, the progressive station. And they were interviewed by the newspaper then, asked if they were going to change the format and let everybody go. And they said, oh no, it's successful. And we were so successful that we were the only Air America station in the country at that time to start making a profit in 9 months. From the time we started the format, 9 months later, we were already above the waterline. Well, I knew they were lying, because I also knew the philosophy, having worked for 15 years for that philosophy station, that you do not, as the philosophy goes, you do not unequally yoke yourself to unbelievers. And of course, a progressive format and its personnel are considered unbelievers, even if they are believers. So February 28th, they laid us all off. They let us all go because they flipped the format to a religious format in March of 2016. My wife, on the other hand, was working in the medical field in a very hostile work environment, and she was having a meeting and finally said, I quit. and she has this knack of saying things before she thinks about them, which is sometimes has actually done well for her. I have to give her credit for that. She's listening to and following that voice inside. And so there we are. We're both out of work. And we're sitting there March 1st watching TV. She comes over, sits down, says, I'm scared. She says, I feel like I'm on the edge of a precipice. And I said, well, without going into a long dissertation here, everything that I have learned over the years tells me that what you do when you're on the edge of a cliff, you jump. And that's chapter 6, where you practice taking leaps of faith.
Yes.
And then the second thing is you trust.
Yes.
And the universe is waiting.
That's a big one. You know, I always teach people how to let go, yes? But I tell them it's about letting go and trusting. You know, and amazing things happen. That's when you are at zero frequency, when you let go and trust. So they said that you have to jump. Life is about jumping and trusting that either will be a net to catch you or you will learn how to fly on the way. and when you live life like that, it's fascinating. Because there is always a net. The thing is, you have to trust, otherwise it cannot be. So everything starts by you, you know. Like, for example, everything started by me saying, Mabel, you have to do something. And I started my search. And everything started coming. I didn't know anything about spirituality. I never heard of it. Metaphysics, you know, nothing. And everything started just coming. Why? Because I made a decision. And the universe, you know, took care of it. You understand what I mean? So everything comes. That's the thing. That's why my first books were called The Easiest Way. I have The Easiest Way, Special Edition, The Easiest Way to Live, The Easiest Way to Grow for kids 3 to 100-year-old. I put everything that I realized, Richard, that, like I told you before, that my life would have been so different if I only knew that. You know, like, you know, if you don't forgive, you are hurting yourself. You're not hurting the person that doesn't deserve your, you know, your forgiveness. That is a very important concept, you know, because then you go, you know, you hurt yourself for the rest of your life. It's like living with that person, you know, for the rest of your life. Exactly the opposite of what you want. Or, for example, that what you think of yourself is important, not what other people think of you. You know, so those kind of things makes us very miserable. And again, it's all about being happy. And when you are happy, you are at peace. For example, and everything comes, everything will be added, they say. That's kind of my experience. I was not planning to change careers at all because I thought my professional life was great. You know, I didn't have anything to worry about. I always had work. I always got paid. Why would I change the career? I was looking for happiness in my personal life. But the thing of trusting, it took me to amazing places. You know, since the pandemic, you know, started, I stopped traveling. But, well, I just went to Mexico, but they allow us to do a training there. But before, I was hardly home because I was always traveling and presenting this, you know, around the world. So, you know, places like Croatia, Serbia, Hungary, Romania, you know. So, but it's wonderful because then you realize how we are all family and we are all looking for the same things and we all have the same challenges.
I think that's something that people are not aware of, especially here in the States, is what you just said at the very end there, that we're all the same. We all have the same desires. We all have the same challenges. I've even put it this way. We all experience the same emotions, even though the stories, the individual stories are different.
Yes, you're right. Everything starts with a thought. You know, and the thought brings up a feeling, and then you take action based on that feeling, and you get in trouble. So for example, zero frequency is about putting some distance and becoming the observer. So you don't identify with the problem. Yeah. In Ho'oponopono, we work on our reaction to the problem, not the problem. Yeah. So the idea is that things are not, don't affect you as much.
So if you're just tuning into the program and you're wondering what in the world are these two talking about, we're talking about zero frequency, the easiest way to peace, happiness, and abundance. And I really I'm glad that you're here with us today, because I'm hoping that for whatever reason somebody is listening, and I've always believed that the right people are listening at the right time.
Yes, no accidents.
No accidents whatsoever.
You're right. You're right.
We've talked a little bit about practicing responsibility, but one of them here, chapter 5, practicing innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Innocence.
Yes.
And
we have to go back to being children, Richard.
Yes.
That's the most important.
And you talked about, you said you found God when you started listening to the voices. And one of the things that's said, for example, in the New Testament is said, "Come to me as little children." I don't care how old you are.
Yes.
Come to me with that innocence.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
That's why I love to work with children, because you learn so much. You learn so much of that innocence. We are always making assumptions. We are always taking things personal. We don't forgive. We've been programmed. Yes. I mean, and it has nothing to do with what it was done to you or what it was said to you. It's what you bought. Because I always give the example of the same family, same parents, all different kids. Yes. They all make, like you said, we all see and we have a different vision and we engage with different things. So it's important to realize that you are responsible and you decided, what makes you happy or makes you unhappy. So, and I love, for me, it was going back to be a child again, and not being so judgmental, yes, or things like that, and being able to be more grateful too. Appreciate, live more in the present. Yes, the kids don't go to the past or worry about the future. And zero frequency is being in the present, doing what you love, trusting that you can do what you love and make money. That's something, a programming that we had to find a job. Yes,
Yeah.
and we bought into that. Instead of saying, hey, what would I do even if I don't get paid because I love it? And actually, that was a question that was asked to me in my very beginning. And you know what I wrote? And I was a tax accountant. And I wrote, traveling around the world, sharing with others what had helped me. And I ended up doing that. Like you said, there are no accidents. Who is listening to this? I am telling you, it's because you are ready. And, God just put it, the universe is perfect.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I've always found interesting. And I actually did say that phrase to one of my first employers, that, boy, if I could put food on the table and if I could survive. And again, I was back in my 20s, early 20s. And I could, pay the things that I needed to pay and what have you, or live where I needed to live. I'd do this job for free. This is so much fun. Someone said to me, "You don't want to be saying that."
No, I can tell you, you can make still good money, but this is like the beginning of your path. Yes, it's like a compass. Yeah, and if you start going that route, it's gonna take you. Like, I'm proof of that. Yeah. Because I was not planning to leave my career. This was like a hobby.
Well, it's something that we encourage people to look into more. Mabel Katz is my guest. She is the author of Zero Frequency, the Easiest Way to Peace, Happiness, and Abundance. And the website, I promised I would give it to you. It is zerofrequency.com/book. For zerofrequency.com/book. Tell us about what little bonuses are awaiting us when we go there.
Yes, if you, I highly recommend it. I was looking here for the, in the peace, practice peace chapter, I actually mentioned the word pandemic. I finished this book, the last manuscript, because I've been trying to write this book for a long time, and it has story, but the last manuscript was ready a year ago, but definitely the universe had it planned for, and I was pushing and pushing, and how come, like you feel there are obstacles or things like that, but actually it wasn't for a year ago, it was for this year. And I couldn't believe myself that I wrote the word pandemic in the book. I talk about homeschooling, and I talk about changing humanity, but well, I'm talking about that that love, can heal anything. So I'm talking about healing and all that stuff. I was trying to find it to read it to you, but believe me, this is the book for these times. This is the best partner you can have right now to go through what we are going through. So if you go to surefrequency.com/book, you will see when you buy the book in Amazon, you get $100 in bonuses. One is an audio that of my very, very first zero frequency training that maybe was 10 years ago, but I did it with my teacher, Dr. Ihalia Kalahiulen here in Los Angeles. And then there is a video series of an event that we did with Don Miguel Ruiz and Dizzy Cordova, Gary Quinn, Gabriel Nosovich, and others. And it's an great training. You are going to get a lot of even processes that you can do, and it will help you a lot to get more clarity. So when you buy the book, you come to that page and it tells you what to do to get. And also my book, even if you, wherever you buy it, or if you don't claim the bonuses, it comes with 10 videos, because I wanted to be able to support people in their journey. I feel zero frequency is a journey. It's not like you get to zero frequency, you stay there. It's like moment by moment, because of these memories that are playing in our subconscious mind. So it's practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and that's I often joke with medical professionals that we have, even health practitioners, when they talk about how their practice. And I was like, okay, so when do you stop practicing and start doing it for real? Well, I mean, that's just what they call it. So move on. But you're right. We do tend to think that the answers are going to come fairly quickly. I mean, and especially in the United States, we're always looking for the quick fix. We're always looking for the fast, whether it's the fast buck or losing weight quickly. Or I will tell you that, and I don't recommend this. This is not a diet plan, folks. But I will tell you, Mabel, that I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes back in July. And as soon as I received the diagnosis, I was probably in shock for about a half hour. Okay. But once I shifted out of that, I knew the reason why. I knew the reason why I had gone there. Now, I had been diagnosed years earlier at certain points along the way I was pre-diabetic. And then, of course, my blood sugar was normal in the low hundreds and so forth. And I knew why I was at 544, because of the pandemic. And what did we all start to do because we were staying home? We started eating comfort foods. They tell you, if you want to eat healthy, when you go to the grocery store, shop at the ends of the store. Don't shop in the middle, because that's where all the processed stuff is. Well, what did we do? We were buying processed foods because they were comfort foods. They were easy. They were simple. And that's the reason why I went up, because my blood sugar was fine before that. So I said, this is not going to be a long-term thing. And as you and I speak, I just took my blood sugar about, in this case, about 45 minutes ago, 80. Now, that's on the low end of normal, but it's still okay.
Sure.
All right. So I told the doctor, I says, how long am I going to have to take this medication that he gave me? I guess it's pretty typical. Metformin is, I guess, a pretty typical medication that Bernie Siegel, Dr. Bernie Siegel, I've had on this program twice. He basically said that sometimes they use that for people who are not diabetic, but who want to not be diabetic. And it's like, okay, but I would try some other natural remedies. But my point is, that I was determined that this was not going to be a permanent condition. It was going to be temporary, and I was going to get back the blood sugar levels that I had prior to January 2020.
Good.
And
So a decision.
yeah, I made a decision. Now, you talked about that also. And of course, a decision requires someone to have a list, so to speak, of choices to make. We talk about that all the time on this program. We try to bring people choices and knowledge of those choices.
Yes.
If you don't know that you have other options, how can you choose them?
Well, you're mentioning something that is very important. For me, life is consequences. We don't relate it because of time difference, but everything that we are living is because of a decision, because of an action or a thought. So I encourage parents to teach that to kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a punishment. It's your decision. So, if you do this happen. If you do that, that happen. And you choose, and I'm going to love you no matter what. And it's your decision. So I don't need to be mad or anything, or you don't have to complain because you made that decision, prior, and you knew. Wouldn't it be different if we knew when we were kids that everything was up to us, and it wasn't because the life was like that. For me to change, because I was a very intellectual, very close-minded person. I mean, for me, people that spoke about these things, I say, go and get to work, do something. For me, the most important is that I was able to show my kids that somebody can change no matter, the age, the sex, whatever, the gender. It's important. It is important that that life depends on you and your decisions. And so you could have bought into the diagnostic and go, for the rest of your life. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So there are decisions that mark you for the rest of your life. So it's up to you. It's a diagnostic is like a gift that you have to decide if you take it or not. You accept it or not. And I'm not saying you don't have to take good care of yourself. You started being more conscious about what you ate and everything. But again, goes back to a decision. Am I buying or not?
Yeah. Yeah. And I was even sharing this information back when I was originally diagnosed with my mother. And her attitude, as I perceived it, was one of, and she didn't say this, but it's like, well, I'm not surprised, because I was drinking soft drinks for years. I mean, and yet I was bicycling everywhere and burning off the calories and all of that kind of stuff. But still I was consuming those beverages. And I was a little taken aback at first, but I thought, well, maybe in a way I get her attitude. I'm one of her children, and she's tried to teach us. And I even called her, early September. And I called her up just to say, hey, I want to thank you and Dad for giving us the best head start you possibly could by feeding us and taking care of us the best way you knew how. And I really appreciate it because, I am better off today in spite of any diagnosis because I have not just the health, but the attitude that I want to maintain that health. See, I have to outlive my great-grandmother on my mother's side. We called her Nana. She lived to be 100 years old. Now, I just turned 60 this year, so I still have another lifetime to go.
Yes.
So
you better take good care of yourself.
Here, you betcha. Our guest here on the program today is Mabel Katz, and she's got a book called Zero Frequency, The Easiest Way to Peace, Happiness, and Abundance. Let's talk a little bit about abundance because that's part of this whole thing. Yes. A lot of people make the assumption that abundance is the numbers in your bank account. And I have learned, and you can use the word prosperity too if you want, but I have learned one of the universal laws is that there is always an exchange, but it's not necessarily the way you think.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we are talking about programming, yes. Again, and I mentioned before, we learned that we had to find a job, something you hated, but you had to. So how many of us, maybe we wanted to be dancers or whatever, and we were told, no, that won't pay your bills. Yeah, you have to find a job. So it comes back to being yourself. And really, that thing of what would you do even if you don't get paid, I mean, it's amazing because, I mean, it could end up being your career. You could make good money and things because you are doing what you love, and money follows love. So it is a little bit about money, but it is a little bit about how you feel about yourself, if you feel worth it. Yes. If you are willing to invest also, because sometimes we wanted, to really, shower us. Yes. But the thing is, if you do, and what your heart is telling you to do and you trust, amazing things happen because really everything will be added. So one of the things that I learned from my Hawaiian teacher, it was so important for me, is that when I realized I was going to change careers and I said, okay, I'm going to do this professionally, public speaking. And I said, I'm going to go and take classes, yes, because I don't know anything about public speaking. And he said, no, that will take all your naturality. You just have to be yourself. And you wouldn't believe what a relief it was for me to know that every time that I present, no matter how many people are there, I just have to be myself. So I'm not there to convince anybody or anything. And being yourself is much easier than, expecting, people to like you or what you're going to do or what they are going to say or things like that. And when you give yourself the possibility of being yourself, you are at zero frequency. There is nothing you need to worry. It's like everything, you know how you think people are lucky? You say, oh, she's lucky, he's lucky. No, it's because we let go and we allow the universe. So, for example, I did have, when I let go of my career that was paying a lot of my bills and allowed me also to invest in this new career of mine, I counted with some income and I already had a lot of employees. So I said, how am I going to pay without that income now, to all these employees? And you know what? Yes, I went into the worry. Yes, my logical intellect said, oh, you will have to go back to preparing taxes. Well, it was logical and it wasn't that terrible. But, suddenly I made another decision. I said, God knows why I'm here, how much I need and when. I'm not going to worry. So it's not like I didn't worry, but every time that I noticed, because I was conscious, yes, that I was worrying or I was going into the anxiety or the fear or whatever, I would look up like a little child and say, I'm not going to worry. And believe me, I mean, since then, I don't know, maybe that was, that was 2009. I started with, I let go of my career completely in 2008, where I dedicated to this. In 2009, I don't have the income. And since then, I always have what I need or more, because I'm not there, worrying or thinking about it. And emails come, with offers to buy the copyrights of my books in other languages, or invitations, to go to speak certain places. So that's how it works, if you allow it. Yeah. So zero frequency is about allowing. It is about no worrying and no thinking, because that's the worst thing we can do when we have a problem. So can you appreciate how much we have to change our programming? What we learn, we have to unlearn.
Yeah.
And relearn.
Well, and that aspect of allowing is enormous, because sometimes when help is offered to people here in the United States, a lot of people will turn it down, and they'll usually use the phrase, well, I don't take charity. Well, no, you're in need and I'm here to help you. It isn't charity. That I'm just one human being trying to help another. And this seems to be a real big problem, especially here. although that seems to be changing because more and more people are in need, and they are very grateful when support comes along. People are there to help that they never anticipated. And we've seen certain stories. Saw this one woman. This was incredible. This 80-year-old plus woman living in this house. And she asked a neighbor if he could come over. And all she wanted him to do was change the light bulb. And the next thing you knew, you had neighbors from all around coming over to help to completely refurbish her home inside and out.
Wow.
She didn't ask for it. And so they started this nonprofit, and and these people who are volunteering, they now want to continue
more
and more.
Yeah. Because it's natural in us.
Yeah.
It is natural in us. But you cannot give what you don't have. So talking about abundance, it is about you not feeling guilty even if you have. It is about you accepting, opening up to it. How many said, oh no, then I will have to pay taxes? Yes. So, those kind of thoughts that sometimes we have, and we don't realize, but those are the worst obstacles. So we are the worst obstacle in our own life.
We are indeed. And I know finances especially, it's taken me years to get to a place where if I start thinking now about the numbers, I stop myself and I say, okay, just trust. It's like just repeating the word mantra, just trust.
Yes.
That no matter what happens, you trust. I don't care if you have 3 or 5 items that overdraw your account and you're hit with $30. Trust.
I just say I let go and trust. I let go and trust. It is unbelievable how it works.
Yeah.
Because like I told you, the worst thing you can do is worry.
Oh my gosh, because that then starts to destroy your physical health. It's not just a mental thing, it's now becoming a physical thing.
Well, the thing is, if you are not present, if you are not in the zero frequency, if you are not in balance, it is like inspiration cannot come into your life. So you understand what I mean? You are closed.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, Bruce Lipton defines it as 2 antennas, yes? So you have to change stations to find the right solution, or for inspiration to come. It's not when you are, engaging with all your memories and, this part of us that talks so loud and makes up stories, and takes you places like the past and the future. You have to stay present. One of the things is you have to breathe. You have to realize that when you have a problem, the first thing you go is to go, I got the bill, or I got the diagnostic, or, and even if you just breathe, it makes a big difference in your life. And definitely if you are breathing, you are present. Yes. You cannot breathe for the past or the future.
That's very good. Mabel is my guest. Mabel Katz. Zero Frequency is the title of the book. ZeroFrequency.com/book. Get a copy of the book and take advantage of the wonderful bonuses that have been made available to you to find the easiest way to peace, happiness, and abundance. And of course, we've been talking about peace on this program since September of 2019 in terms of encouraging people, especially during 2020, the year of perfect vision, to go within.
Yeah.
That seems to me to be a real key to really all of this, because again, you talk about that inspiration, that guidance and so forth. Well, it comes from within, and sometimes it just comes. Just comes.
Well, look who you are talking to. I am a peace ambassador, and I have my World Peace campaign is Peace Begins With Me. Peace Within is World Peace. Yeah. So again, it's about, it comes back to us.
Yeah.
We are the ones that have to change. We are waiting. Incredible. We are waiting. Yes.
Yeah, we are. We are waiting. And the universe is waiting too for us to trust.
Yes.
That's chapter 1, folks.
Let go and trust. Let go and trust.
Let go. Jump and trust. Jump and trust, folks.
Yes.
Do it. Mabel Katz, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the program and
Thank
for
you,
sharing
Richard.
this zero frequency. Again, it's the easiest way to peace, happiness, and abundance. It's not that hard, folks, because you already have all of the tools that you will ever need, and all that you're going to get from zero frequency is a little guidance, a little nudge, if you will, from Mabel, and we are so appreciative.
A lot
For
of tips also of ways of getting there, when you have a problem or things like that.
exactly.
So, and the book comes with with 10 videos that you access when you buy the book, but also the bonuses are $100 bonuses of different trainings that you will enjoy very much too.
You start right there, folks, with abundance and
Yes,
prosperity right there. I
yes.
guarantee you. And the books are never that expensive, and they're definitely worth it. I'm just curious as to whether you have placed this in an Audible format yet.
Yes, the English I pay somebody because not everybody likes my accent, but the Spanish one was the one that I recorded myself, and as I'm telling you, I was shocked when I was reading, and I said, I can't believe I wrote that. Talking about pandemic and a pandemic of peace and love and healing the world and changing humanity and etc.
And that was more than a year ago that you wrote that.
Yeah, well, even more, but a year ago was finished.
A bit on the prophetic side. Well, I
Yeah.
have 3 final questions I want to ask you before we go. You may have answered them a bit as we have been going through this interview, but I like to ask them directly.
Sure.
But before I do, I want to remind our listeners of the program, Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, and giving people choices and knowledge of those choices, like zero frequency. And we encourage you to listen 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. on Sundays, 1 a.m. Monday mornings, streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com, and the podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry. I said Player FM already. We also encourage you, if you are able to do so, to support the work that we're doing here. We are trusting the universe that we will receive what we need to keep things moving forward on this program. And we use PayPal and Patreon accounts for your security as well as ours. And again, a reminder about 2020, the year of perfect vision. So of the 3 questions, number 1 is, who is Mabel Katz?
An ex-accountant, a former accountant that woke up.
What is it that you hope to or want to achieve through the work that you're doing now?
Wake up more people. And so they can find their passion, their purpose, they can be happy, they can use their innate talents and gifts.
And finally, what is your life's purpose?
To wake up people. I feel my mission is to wake up people. And we have an opportunity right now to create really a new earth for us, a new world. And I hope I'm doing a good job about waking up people, so
You get
that
that, folks?
they can choose better.
Absolutely. Just think about it, folks. Mabel Katz can be your alarm clock to wake you up.
I hope so. Thank you. So that means I'm doing something right.
Exactly. Zerofrequency.com/book. Go there. Find out more about Zero Frequency, the easiest way to peace, happiness, and abundance. I thank you so much for being with us on the program. And I thank you for listening to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, love to love. And we are clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard.
That was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Richard. It was wonderful. Yes.
And I look forward to getting together again in the near future to talk more about this, because there's always plenty to talk about.
Sure. Yeah, whenever you want, I'm available. Thank you.
Well, many blessings to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can you send me your email address so that I can send you a link to the file that I'm going to send out?
Yes,
and then
or you can send it to Pablo too, and he takes care of that.
Okay, I've got Pablo's email address. I'll send both of the things to him. You bet.
Thank you, Richard. Nice meeting you.
Great to meet you too. Bye-bye.